Today I will, hello everyone. Today I will talk about the creating Android library for the seamless integration. I think most of the developers are quite familiar with the consuming the other Android library, but we are not like very familiar with like creating our own library. Maybe Sam for doing the uh, open source project. So a little bit about myself. My name is Poe Poe Myint Swe. I'm a software engineer actually. I'm responsible for the mobile team and the mobile related product development. So before we dive into like coding, that will be so maybe like we will create a library for the like for as a third party library, or maybe we want to create an in-house library for that. So if we decided that, then there's a one thing to choose is before writing any coding is a build type. So how you like to deliver your artifact? There's two types for the Android library. Is one is a AR file, and then another one is a jar file. So jar is like convenient for like if you have a multi-platform and then you want to reuse your code in the like front end, back end or something like that. But if you want to include all these Android related resource file, or you want to take advantage of the manifest file or something like that, you would prefer the AR file. Of course, after you choose the format, then we can start thinking about the designing the API. So mostly most of the library is a lot of thinking will go into the a lot of our will go into the thinking how to design properly the API instead of like flat out writing the code, because you are not just designing just for your own use, but you are thinking about how other people will use it, and then you want the mostly the ease of the application usage as well. So yeah, this is like every library has a like some kind of initialization, and then we always like have a lot of library integrated into our app. There will be like multiple library at the start of the app, and then you will have a different kinds of library like Firebase, Facebook, or all these. So this is every library have a different kind of step. So we will have here is I grab a screenshot of a Firebase SDK, and then yeah. So the first thing is like for the ease of adaptation, you want your library to be as easy as possible to integrate. So here is like for Firebase, it's like very easy because you only have a one line of code for the integration. So this is like what we should target, like to have a like easy integration. So the first rule is like avoid the multiple argument. You don't want your library have too many arguments that are unnecessary as well. Like here I have low level and environment, which might not be any important for that. So to avoid this kind of like multiple argument section, argument constructor, you can do is like you can have your you can use a popular Java beta pattern. So it will simplify the creation of the object, and then also the design pattern will let you separate the required and optional parameter. In this case, I might require the context and maybe the API key, but low level and environment are not required. So I can use a build button, and then if I use a build button, my integration line is very so there will be required is a context and the key, and then low level become optional. I can comment it. You see, I comment the environment part. So this is a way of reducing the multiple argument. Another one is if you don't want to use a builder button, another thing is you can create an entity object which doesn't have anything, business logic or any logic. It's just accepting the data and then passes to the initializer. So for that is like now I have a configuration class, and then I have a constructor with a context and a key again. So the low level and environment are also optional. After object creation, you can set it if you want, and you don't need to set it at all if you don't want to use it. So there will be always a default value inside it So it's like you just create the client with one parameter like config. Another one is after you have decided the how initialization should be for the class, then you want to enforce the types as well. So in here is that I have a load level and environment, which might be like some static variable. So here is like I have a def as a string static, and then but developer may not get the JS, or maybe because I don't enforce the type, they will put whatever they want for the value. So we don't want that. We want to have a control as much as of the initialization. So one way to do is that you use an init to enforce a type. And so now I have like a dev staging and production. All these are they cannot put any value like string, so it's type safe. And another one, of course, the Android support annotation is a type that is a in kind of thing as well. So you can create your static environment there, pro staging, all these, and then you use a string def for that. So it become one. The good thing about the annotation is that annotation is this one will be like if you put any other value, there will be a lint warning as well. So the IDE will tell you that, oh, this is not the value I want. So after the initialization step is done, so you now have a client, and then you have all these initialization steps. Another one is like you have your own like function that the client will call it. So you want to denote all these as well, like for the like thread declaration is we are also here making use of the Android annotation as well. So here I have a like full method, and then I denote this it's any thread. You can call from any thread, or maybe you just want it from the UI thread or main thread. Then you just annotate it, and then the IDE will have a link warning if I call from any other thread. Yeah. So this is also a good way that letting the developer know that this function only can call from the certain thread. So it will not happen like they call you return the callback from the background thread, and then they don't know it, and then maybe have a toast when toast or dialog box appear after that in the main UI thread. Maybe that will happen, and then the app might crash. So this is a good practice to make use of the Android annotation. So so after all this, then you know like how most apps started look like. So maybe I have like all these different library integrated. I have a Facebook SDK. Yeah, as an analytic manager, I have my own class to wrap all the analytic manager, and then I have another library, etc. So all these have like my application on stack will be like a good chance of code. These are all these are just studying or initializing the library only. What will happen is that if you have a lot of library integrated on the startup of the app, your app become slower and slower because all these libraries are hogging the startup of the application. Then what you want to do is that you might want to use the you might want to initialize your app from the background, like using on other different thread or maybe like thread pool, and then initialize all your SDK in the background. So and if your library use like any permission, need any permission, Then instead of like because for me is that our library is that we're not asked permission directly from the user. So what we do is like we check the permission whether the app already has it. Then we will use the we will make use of that permission and then collect the data or do something about it. So it's a good way is that you always check whether this permission is already granted from the application, granted by the user to the application integrated your library. So instead of like asking directly to the permission. And another way is like, let's say I want to use now I want to use a location. I want to know the user location or something like that. Then I might want to use like a Google Fields location provider. But the thing is that I don't want to make my SDK bulky by adding the dependency inside the SDK as well. So what I could do is that I can check whether this library or is already existed on the application. So here I just check whether Google location Fields location provider is already integrated to the app, or otherwise I will if already integrated, I will use a Fields location request helper, which is using a Fields location API. Or if not, I will just use another one that is a location request is already present for the provided by the Android API. So then my SDK is slimmer, and then I don't need to put any other third-party library together, banded together with my SDK. So so you have your SDK out there already, but you have like a functionality you want to remove. Then as a responsible developer, you cannot remove your feature without any notice. So you need to use like maybe like deprecate function, deprecate annotation, and then say that this will be maybe like removed in the future, and notifying the developer as well, like in the chain log or something like that, that this will be removed in which version or when will be removed as well. So yeah, I think most of the developers know that this is a memo is a do not log in production, but sometimes like you test your code, like mostly for SDK is like we have a mental note not to use the print function. So sometimes we were just like how to say, we want to debug something and then we want to print the log, and then it happened. It's like later you forgot about it. You forget about it when you release the app, and when you release the SDK, and then it was become in the it's now in the production SDK or something like that. So the good practice is that we always have a log class which will identify and which will log only in the specific build, like debug bay or something like that only. So we also ask developer not to use like print function and only use this class to log. Otherwise, you put a lot of like a print or any other thing, and then it will become in the production as well. So next one is that because the SDK are integrated to the app, and then if SDK is something wrong, crash, most of the client, the app integrated your SDK will not be very happy about it, because yeah, nobody want that. You don't want people will be like, it's okay if they crash their own app, but not because of other people. So it's like the best thing is like you always catch your exception, and then based on like what exception, let's say class, instead of also generally catching every expression, you also like maybe like this one where might throw the class not found exception, and this one will throw this exception, so that like fallback, and then you catch it. So in that way, there will be no accidental crash. And another thing you can do is that you can also, of course, you can send to your server back for the error log as well, like what has happened with this function or something like that. But the thing about the SDK is like we cannot use other third-party questionnaire kind of thing. So we have our own system or like logging all these error. I think recently like a lot of app crash and because of the popular library. And then I check it, and it's because like the response code is changed or something like that, and then all the app integrated to that library will crash. So then I think it became the problem is that the misunderstanding between the like backend and also the front end what can handle as well. So like even in the API response or something like that, you always catch the exception while passing the response. What are the response code you expected, and then which if it's not the response code you expected, what will you do? And then all these should be like considered. And also like backend in API as well, they should use like versioning and then not to push to the production without consulting the mobile team or something like that. Mobile is like you cannot take back or deploy like within an hour. Like if you make something crash, and then you can for backend like you can redeploy or you can rebut it back. But mobile is like once the code is out there, you cannot take it back. So it's hard that you need to think clearly, and then also like how to say like future proof or something like that to know that this could be happening. So make the contract, and then everyone should respect the contract. Do not change the response or anything like without consulting or without bumping the version. After the like all these consider, then what you need to do is like you need to document everything. Like you will not be forever in this project, so you need to document what's the intention of each thing you do, and then and also of course like the best practice is that you have a code review, and then like even then that you need a record for that. So document everything, and then once the SDK is released, provide the proper documentation for the integration as well. Like everything is like laid out properly, and once you have a multiple versioning, you provide the change log, what has changed in each version, what are the which function are deprecated, which are the newly added feature, and what might there might be like any problem or anything or something like that. And for the like also like provide example project or sample code for them to try out as well. So I have this most of the thing are also written on a Medium as an article. You can check it out as well. Thank you very much.
When should I use the builder pattern versus parameter object? What's the benefit of one over the other?
I think it's a preference because both are like you want to separate out like conceptually, you want to separate out the logic of the required and the optional parameter, and both can do the same way. So for me, it's like I don't have like any preference over which to use, but naturally I prefer like builder pattern with the Java, because Java is like you can you don't use like we don't do like a what is that called public variable kind of thing. But like for Swift or like Kotlin, I might use a parameter object pattern as well. So it's easier to I need to write more code in that for this language instead of like just use a parameter object and just create the entity, and then it's very easy to use in like Swift and Kotlin. But for Java, it's like I don't. It's just a preference. I don't like it. using the like creating the public variable. I don't think. Yeah.
How do I ensure backward compatibility and protect against breaking changes when I update my SDK?
So I think this is more of a like a backward compatibility. Is like you think about like a bit of like future-proof thinking as well when you design the API. Like what could break in the future, and if like something if drastically change, you just give time for the developer to migrate the to higher version, and then you don't just remove or something like that functionality. So it will be it will give time to migrate to the newer version, and then the current version will stay work as well. So for us, it's like we don't normally like just remove the version or something like that. So that it's always like, and also in the future version, I also make sure backward compatible by like a lot of things through is just think through about the like designing when designing the SDK.